I've been flipping through this book called Helping Parents Practice Ideas for Making It Easier by Ed Sprunger. And there's something that I thought might resonate, especially as we're all having a lot of big feelings. In chapter 20, he talks about developing the skill of acknowledging feelings. And this is something that gets touched on in How to Listen So Kids Will... No, I've got that wrong. How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. And it essentially says that kids have feelings and sometimes they're not very convenient. And the easiest way that we often deal with those is to say, oh, no, you don't, or oh, it isn't that bad. We contradict what the child's just told us, and in doing so, we set up this dangerous situation where they don't really want to tell us how they're feeling because we'll just tell them they're not feeling that way. And then likewise, when we tell them we're feeling a certain way, they feel like they can just brush off the way we're feeling, which makes us feel angry and frustrated and unacknowledged and all that other stuff. So in this chapter, headed Develop the Skill of Acknowledging Feelings, guess what? The idea is to acknowledge feelings. Now, what I really like about this chapter is that it essentially says we have the ability to influence a child's feelings, but we can't command them to feel a certain way. So it's much more helpful to listen to how your child is feeling and meet them where they are. Accept it, acknowledge it, let them have the feeling, and then try to lead them out of it. So this is the example that he gives. Instead of attempting to block Abby's feelings, and since we can't control feelings, attempting is the most any parent can do, Abby's mother has several other options for acknowledging Abby's upset, all of them productive. She could describe the feeling. It looks like you're really upset about having to repeat this passage. She could submit to wishful thinking. Wouldn't it be great if you could just magically play this easily without practicing? Or she can get a question to get Abby to talk more about her feelings. What don't you like about repeating this passage? Any one of these tactics merely notes Abby's feelings. They don't let her off the hook. Mum still has to listen to Abby talk about the feelings, and Abby still has to do the work of practice. Being upset does not automatically mean that it's time to quit practicing any more than being happy means a child gets to throw orange paint at the kitchen cupboards in an act of glee. It is possible to have a feeling or an attitude and still work productively. The secret is to acknowledge Abby's feelings before insisting that she practice. If you try to fight them, you end up putting up a barrier that prevents useful work from getting done, or just makes it more difficult than it needs to be. He goes on to talk about feelings being temporary. So they impact the way we're feeling, but they don't last forever. And sometimes if we acknowledge them and accept them, it's easier to get past them. You can say, you sound like you're really upset about this thing, or I seem to see that you don't want to do this particular thing. I have to admit, and this is a strategy acknowledged later on, we get an episode of The Whingers, and my latest strategy is to say, hold on, let me just start the timer and you can whinge for a whole minute. You get a whole minute just to whinge. Don't do anything else. You're not allowed to do anything else except whinge for a whole minute. And so far I've only had to start the timer once, because every other time it's provoked laughter and a feeling of, oh yeah, actually, probably I don't need to do this. But giving space for the behavior to happen to help exercise the feelings sometimes just helps it evaporate by itself. Not always, not a magic spell. But it takes effort on our part to meet the behavior and meet the feeling where it is and accept it and let it happen rather than contradicting it and pushing back on it. I do like Ed saying, acknowledging a child's feelings is not easy. In the short run, it's much easier to blurt out something as, don't be discouraged, or can't is a four-letter word and you're not allowed to say it. In the long run, however, it is more effective to invest in the tremendous effort it takes to respond with empathy. You're discouraged, or sounds like you're frustrated because you're not getting this as quickly as you'd like to. Fortunately, doing the work of acknowledging a child's feelings is a case in which more effort yields more reward. And I think that's probably true. When we look at our own feelings, it's easy sometimes to sweep them under the carpet and pretend they don't exist, or to kind of take them out and use them as reasons not to do things. And I guess what we have to look at here is what we want our kids to do. Do we want them to deny what they're feeling, or do we want them to use the way they're feeling as an excuse or a reason not to do something? Or do we want to teach them to work through it and to work despite feeling a certain way, or acknowledging it and trying to move through it and get to the other side? And this is a nice paragraph. When we start taking a look at our own feelings, we realize why it's so difficult for children to control theirs. We full-grown puppies can't even control ours. What we can and must do is control our behaviors in much the same way that we acknowledge a child's feelings but restrict the child's behavior. The difference is that we have to do it for ourselves. While children can lean on us for help with managing their feelings, we can't lean on them for help with ours. Mature adults realize, and I'm skipping quite a bit here, mature adults realize that the sooner we acknowledge feelings, the sooner they pass, or at least become more manageable. Much like the waves at the beach, feelings come and go throughout the day. Trying to control feelings, our own or anyone else's, is as futile as trying to sweep those waves back into the ocean. I've heard it suggested that as you feel something, go and write the feeling down. And at the end of the day, look at all the things you've written down. And if you've been diligent about writing down, you'll have a whole spectrum of feelings. And then you'll realize that the fury you felt at 3 p.m, looking at a floor covered in crap, was momentary, and you'd forgotten it again by 6 o'clock. It's, I think, helpful to recognize that a lot of the things we get caught up in, we're just caught up in, and they're momentary. So something that Ed suggests is exercising great caution and self-discipline, because he suggests that there is a good way to share frustrations with kids so that they learn that feelings are fine, but maybe behaviors stemming from those feelings are what need control. He suggests avoid saying, "You really need to behave today because I'm not in the mood to practice." The problem with a statement like this is, while it might help you get something off your chest, it also communicates you expect your child's actions to take care of your emotional mood. On the other hand, you could say something that can benefit your child as much as you, such as, "I wish we didn't have to practice today. I have so many other things I've got to do or I'd rather do, but I'm going to make myself sit down and practice with you because I know that it's important. And if we don't get it done now, it won't get done." He suggests that statements like this one model several important things for their child. They demonstrate acceptance of your own feelings and your ability to use your rational mind to make a decision about what to do about them. At the same time, they demonstrate how much you value music and the process of practicing. Your comments also show the mixed nature of feelings. You both do and do not want to practice. If your child would also like to skip practice for the day, your comments even provide a kind of empathy. In case it's not totally obvious, I want to add that not being in the mood to practice is not a reason for you to skip practice for the day any more than it's an excuse for your child. The next bit really resonates with me because as a teacher, I am often working with kids as they pass through frustration or annoyance or resistant nature where they aren't sure that they can do the thing I'm asking for. I think they can do it, but it's on me to set them up so that they can do it. And sometimes that means I have to ask for something much easier or simpler than they're capable of, just so that they believe they can. And so we work from this place of trust where I'm saying, can you just play me busy, busy, stop, stop? And I know I can feel the parent in the room going, he knows that. We've done that 8 million times. Why are you not asking him to play perpetual motion? That's our new piece. Well, kid can play perpetual motion, but kid doesn't think right now they can play perpetual motion. So if I ask for perpetual motion, I'm just going to have a really cranky kid. So instead, I have to ask for something that is way below their current level of ability, maybe, but that they are confident they can do, So they trust me, and then we can move into the murky territory of what they're not so comfortable doing, even though they can do it. And that empathy can really help kids move from a place of, I can't do this, don't ask me, to, oh yeah, that's easy. Oh, that's pretty easy as well. Oh, that's kind of easy. That's a little bit challenging, but I can probably do it because I did the previous 3 things. So we have to be, I think, very patient in our expectations and our working with. And I think rereading this book for the 800th time could be good for me. You can get this on your Kindle app. It's a really, really good book. And as you can see, I've just dipped in and I've read you a couple of paragraphs and then given you my opinion. Because we are all dealing with a lot more stress right now, make sure you stop and acknowledge your feelings. And I think it's really okay to tell your kids, I feel worried about, or I feel upset because, or I am confused by, and let them see you having big feelings and working through them. I don't think it's wise to sweep things under the carpet. Kids pick up on that kind of stuff anyway. So I see lots and lots of parents really worried about missing school and how they're going to homeschool their child. Emotional literacy is really important, and I constantly struggle with it. I constantly struggle with articulating the way I'm feeling about something and not letting it influence my behavior. That's a big challenge for me. So join me on my challenge as I learn to feel my feelings and control my behavior. And I think that's of huge value, that committing to do something every day, which we do when we become Suzuki musicians and we say we're going to practice and we're going to listen every day, is a life lesson in learning how to do things, even though we may not feel like it when we start. Often the familiarity of a routine can help pull us around. So get Ed Spronger's book, highly recommended, and I hope that this has been of some use to you.